vanessamedia.com. Check out store.hellovanessamedia.com. Subscribe on Rumble, YouTube, follow on podcasting platforms, follow on Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok. Hi, my name is Vanessa, and today's video / podcast are going to be about Reta Mays, a convicted American serial killer whose crimes that we're aware of took place at a Veterans Health Administration facility named Lewis A. Johnson VA Medical Center in Clarksburg, West Virginia. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because A&E did a really good documentary on this topic. And it was on YouTube, has a clip of it on their A&E channel. It's 13 minutes long approximately. The full-length version is actually on the A&E channel itself. You have to gain access to that some way, somehow. It took me literally like an hour to figure out how to get access to it because I do not have the A&E channel. The full-length documentary about this topic is about 43 minutes long. Yes, I made a note of that. Anyways, I watched it twice. I had to fast forward through some of the parts. The second time was difficult to watch because it had the families who were obviously upset that their loved ones were murdered while supposed to be receiving healthcare at Veterans Health Administration facilities. So I'm going to go ahead and just get right into it. It's a topic that's been of interest to me for a number of years now since I first heard of it, but I didn't feel comfortable covering the topic at all because I didn't have enough information. The only way you could get information is if you pulled court records, and that would be it. The news media outlets didn't do a very good job covering it. It was pretty much always a 1 or 2 minute clip, and that was it from what I saw. But this is the first time I've seen a really in-depth documentary type well, not a series, but a segment, I guess you call a full episode on it. And they did a fantastic job. I wish they would cover more of these types of topics related to the military community in some way, shape, or form, military veterans, military spouses, service members, etc., because it would be nice. It was very relevant, that's for sure, to my life and the world that I live in. So I'll just go ahead and get right to it. But first, I do want to say I highly recommend watching the clip. I've actually linked everything into the description of wherever you're watching this, if there is a description available to watch. And so I linked the clip where it's located on YouTube and a YouTube channel and the full-length documentary. But one of the things that was so impressive to me was the videography, filmography, whatever you would call it, of the aerial videography. There was this aerial video taken of over the area where this took place in Clarksburg, West Virginia, and of the facility. And I cannot tell you, you'd have to see. It's so beautifully shot how they did it. Very artistic. I am a very creative person. I really appreciated that part of the filming. They really had high production value, and they did a really good job. They really invested a lot of time into it, and resources, it seems like, and talent. Okay, so Reta Mays is the name of a convicted female serial killer that murdered multiple elderly male military veterans that were located as inpatient, basically meaning they were staying in this situation overnight, receiving medical care for various ailments. They were all anticipated to be discharged sooner than later to go back to their life, to their families, to their homes. It wasn't anticipated that any of them were going to die there while receiving treatment. That wasn't anticipated at all based upon the information that I learned. So obviously this took place, like I mentioned, at the Lewis A. Johnson VA Medical Center, which is located in Clarksburg, West Virginia. And a string of suspicious deaths were reported to authorities. And before I get started, I want to also mention one of the things that fascinates me about this case is how much it has to do with the ineptitude, incompetence, negligence, whatever you want to call it, at Veterans Health Administration, which I've been complaining about endlessly, and they have not been able to resolve because it's way above anything I can control. And lobbying to Congress has gotten me nowhere. Um, so Rita Mays was an uncertified nursing assistant, is what they referred to her as in this documentary, meaning that she lacked the proper credential and training to even do the job in the first place. Credentials are something that are very easy to check in America from my direct experience. Typically, they're public record. And apparently, this was not done. I don't know if they didn't ask her if she was certified or if they didn't care or if she, I don't know if she lied and said that she was, but she wasn't and they didn't check. I'm not really quite sure how that happened, but basically to become a certified nurse's aide in two of the states that I'm familiar with, it would literally be less than 2 months to get done straight through the training. And it's always been a nominal cost. It's not a high cost thing. So, in my opinion, Veterans Health Administration could and probably should just train nurses aides at their facilities so that they can show them the way things need to be done, because every facility is going to be different. So it seems like that would be beneficial. Whatever the case, they don't do that. They didn't in this case. The person wasn't certified. If they would have just done their job in human resources, they could have prevented all of the stuff that I'm about to talk about from even ever happening in the first place. The Office of Inspector General of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has since come out and said, and they're doing the Lord's work here, being honest, that basically that there's systemic failures, which I already know about, in Veterans Health Administration, which caused this type of incident to occur with Rita Mays, where she murdered multiple people while working as an uncertified nursing assistant, and as well as many other really bad outcomes that involved like unsanitized equipment, which led to potential infectious diseases being unleashed upon the military veteran population that were being treated in the lab, okay, or getting blood drawn, whatever. So, this is kind of one more of those big blunders, basically. So, basically, she murdered 7 people, is my understanding, in 11 months of working there. That's a lot. And there were more that she tried to murder. At least one is my understanding, maybe more. There was a lot to this. That person survived. And so my understanding is that Rita Mays was murdering her patients by injecting them with insulin, causing hypoglycemia to occur in patients that were, my understanding is they weren't diabetic, and then this overdose caused their death essentially. And it wasn't immediate, it didn't sound like. It sounded like it was days before some of them passed, but at least hours. And it sounded like this was really a horrific death. Like people were in pain. Like it wasn't like some instant thing either. And the families were featured heavily on this documentary, and that was really sad. And there was this one lady who's in my mind the most, and not all the families were in the documentary, just some of them. And she said she was married to this man who was murdered since she was 18 years old, and now she's, an older person. And I cannot imagine how difficult her life must be with a person she's literally had her whole adult life, just not being there anymore. Especially in something as tragic as this. Okay, so resident agent in charge Keith Vereb from the VA Office of Inspector General stated that the medical director contacted our 24/7 duty phone number and indicated that the facility had reviewed multiple instances going back to January of 2018 and had identified inpatients that had experienced severe blood pressure, and all with the exception of one had died. So maybe I don't know if they mean severe blood pressure or low hypoglycemia. I'm not quite sure. Anyways, all of the patients / victims were located in the same ward of the hospital. They said it over and over and over again. I think it was ward 3A. Sounds like the stuff horror movies are made out of. All of the deaths and or injuries from the intentional insulin overdoses took place, within an 11-month span upon various reports. And I can't help but wonder if there's more to this story. You know, so it's my understanding that no one was even fired for all of the cited failures leading up to the deaths and even thereafter within the Veterans Health Administration facility here where this took place in Clarksburg, West Virginia. And that's a problem. And this is the first time that someone's gotten killed in Veterans Health Administration, not by a serial killer that I'm aware of, but just killed because of just negligence or malpractice or something. And then it's like, oh well, oh, no one gets fired for it. They might get like a reprimand that's in their file for 3 years and gets removed. It's ridiculous. So, between July 2017 and June 2018, a total of 9 patients in hospital ward 3A, okay, 9, die of unexplained hypoglycemia. So I thought 7 patients died. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was 9. There's a lot of people involved in this, so I'm a little confused now. I swear I watched this twice. Okay, a 10th patient receives the same diagnosis but recovers. Rita Mays agrees to multiple interviews, which was just amazing to me. And Rita Mays, when I watched her demeanor and her behavior, and she's not the first violence criminal who I've really paid attention to because there's recordings of them, like in a court or an interview. Rita Mays doesn't seem to be playing with a full deck of cards from what I observed of her, okay? And so that makes me really wonder about her origin story. Like, what was her childhood like? What was her adult life like? And I really can't help but wonder did she do something like this before and not get caught? You know what I mean? Like, are there other crimes that she committed? Were they violent? Were they not violent? It's hard for me to believe that someone is leading this perfect life, just being, when I say perfect, I mean like just normal, ordinary person that's not committing violent crimes or any crimes at all, and then just goes from living their ordinary life to becoming a serial killer at a hospital all of a sudden. I have a hard time buying that. Like, I feel like there's more to the story and we're just getting a glimpse of how the story ended for her, because she spends the rest of her life in prison. She's never getting out. No parole for Rita Mays. The judge made that clear. So I watched 3 of the interviews that Rita Mays agreed to. The first interview was conducted, it appeared to be in the hospital where she worked at the time, in an office somewhere, by the VA Office of Inspector General. Special Agent Earl Gilliam conducted the first interview. The second interview, Special Agent Carrie Robbins from the Federal Bureau of Investigation's FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit conducts the second interview with Rita Mays. Okay, so they called her in because they wanted basically someone that was basically more of a behavioral expert that might be able to be more successful in maybe getting a confession or more information out of her than what they initially obtained. The third interview, which was actually, I'll get to that. The third interview with Rita Mays was conducted by Special Agent Liza, I'm not sure how to say it, Liza Ludovico, a former U.S. Army nurse and trained calligrapher in Fairmont, West Virginia, Friday, October 4th, 2019 at 8:15 p.m. This was her third interview, which lasted approximately 6 hours. 6 hours. Wow. And she was here voluntarily. She didn't have to be at these interviews. And she didn't have a lawyer with her, and she voluntarily did these interviews, is my understanding. Like, no one made her do that. That's just wild to me. So I also that's just it's a lot. That's a lot. So much. Okay, so the outcome is that the Department of Justice pursued criminal charges against Rita Mays. Rita Mays accepted a plea deal to murdering 7 people and assaulting one that survived, is my understanding of what that consists of. The murders were committed via lethal drug injections by Rita Mays. And then again, like I said, Rita Mays will never exit prison ever. And the irony of this is that she actually had a relationship with a man I think it was her boyfriend, significant other type person, that was also serving time incarcerated for what I don't know. But they actually played the jailhouse phone calls that she would have with him after her shifts at her work, where she would be talking about the patients. She said that she wanted to strangle one of the patients because she'd become upset with them about their behavior in one of her overnight shifts. And basically, the investigators obtained those phone calls and recordings and utilized them um, in interview. I think it was the third interview they did actually. And so now it's not just, I mean, I don't know if her significant other got out of jail or not, but whatever the case, now she's incarcerated for life. So there you have it. So let me know if you've heard of this story or not. Like I said, I'd heard of it, didn't have this much information until now. Maybe one day somebody will do some research into this woman's background to see what, if anything, they can find out, because I certainly would be curious. Okay, I hope you have a great day. Bye. Check out hellovanessamedia.com. Check out store.hellovanessamedia.com. Subscribe on Rumble, YouTube, follow on podcasting platforms, follow on Twitter, LinkedIn, and TikTok.